What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Kind of Funny Gamescast. As always, I'm Tim Gettys, joined by one of the coolest dudes in video games, Greg Miller.
Tim, how long do you think it would take for you to learn how to do that thing where you uncross your eyes so that you can go the opposite way, like an iguana? You know what I mean? You ever seen somebody who's got that talent?
I'm really bad at learning new things. Like recently,
Sure.
I was thinking about if I had to use my left hand, and now I have 1 week, I'd be screwed. If I had a year, I'd be screwed. It doesn't matter. There's no doing anything with this.
I think
Like
in
for
a
writing
year
or
you
just
could get in. In a year you could get into it.
I don't know, man. And I know this because back in the day when I was a little kid growing up in the streets of San Francisco,
Sure.
and I was, so impressed by Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. I was like, I'm going to be a skater boy. Someday someone's going to say, see you later, boy. But before they do that, I'm going to be able to do a whole bunch of sweet kickflips and stuff. And so I got a skateboard and I was really into it. But I could only ride Mongo, which means you're pushing with the foot that goes in the front instead of how you're supposed to do it, with just pushing with the foot in the back. Really fucks you up if you're a skater. Like limits your tricks you can do, limits your mobility and all this stuff. And I tried to force myself to not do that, and I couldn't because I'm a dumb kid. And now I'm just a big dumb kid, Greg.
Didn't Tony Hawk teach you how to do a kickflip?
It didn't teach me.
I mean, he showed you.
He showed me, and I did one. I can do a kickflip, but I can't do others.
Here's the thing, and I mean this with all due respect.
Wait, you can do a kickflip?
Get him a skateboard right now, Blessing.
He has one in his hallway.
Okay, hold on. I want to go back to something. When you said, didn't Tony Hawk teach you how to do a kickflip? Do you mean the game or the person?
No, the man.
The person. He was doing a playground tour. Or I don't know. That's probably not what it was. Now that I think
that's
about it,
that's creepy as hell. Grown man Tony Hawk.
It was one of those weird fucking pop-up events going around promoting something. It wasn't the game. I think it might have been his Boom Boom Huck Jam or whatever the fuck.
Boom Boom Huck Jam.
You know what I'm talking about, Greg?
No.
It was a Boom Boom Huck Jam. I don't remember what that is, but it was something related to Tony Hawk. Anyways, he was going around skating and stuff, and I saw him at a local playground. And I had my skateboard, and he was really cool to me. And then he did a kickflip, and he tried to get me to do a kickflip, and then I did a kickflip.
Super mean to Nick, though. Super mean to Nick.
Sounds like a story I would have made up in elementary school.
Yeah,
but
100%.
Adult Tim telling me this, I'm like, there's no reason I can't believe you. There's no reason why you would lie about this.
Now, could I still do a kickflip? It's very unlikely, but I guarantee.
Get the skateboard. It's in the hallway.
I mean, you can't just do it on it's just a deck. That's
Tim, wheels are too dangerous for you right now.
I can't kickflip with just a deck. I could probably get the flip motion, but I wouldn't be able to land it. You know? Have you looked up Boom Boom Huck Jam?
I have. It did immediately pop up. You're right. Yeah. Tony Hawk Wikipedia Boom Boom Huck Jam. In 2002, Hawk started a show tour featuring freestyle motocross, skateboarding, and BMX. It started in Las Vegas and went on to 31 cities. So yeah, there's your Boom
all
Boom
this
Huck
lines
Jam.
up. It all adds up. There we go.
I think you could do it. I think if you took 1 year and only used your left hand, it was a mental choice, you'd be proficient by the end of the year.
Tim, you give me permission, I'll get a baseball bat, and we'll make sure you can only use your left hand.
Don't think we have to do that.
We also have the new face of video games, Blessing, Adeoye Jr.
It's me, Kevin. I'm gonna need you to give me the one, if that's possible. If that's within your arsenal.
You just saw him for 35 minutes.
You just saw
him.
Give me the one, Kevin. You can do it.
I mean, it's gonna take a minute. You can't just. Why wouldn't you message me earlier, being like, "Hey, this is what I'm gonna need from you, Kevin."
I didn't know I was gonna need this until Greg asked Tim if he could do the iguana eye thing, and I'm happy to report.
Hold on, no, hold it. I'm working on giving you the one, so don't just do it.
You cannot do the iguana eye thing, Blessing.
Now, to be clear, you're talking about make your eyes go different directions, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I can
make one eye do that. I can make one eye go back and forth.
All right, hold on.
In the land of no iguanas, one eye is king. You know what I mean?
I have to get.
Sure, yeah, you got to get in character.
There it goes.
Hold on. I want to full screen you too. I want to full screen you here.
And it's easier if I can see myself do it. Hold on.
Okay.
All right, I'm really nervous. So,
you should be.
Hold up.
Look at it go.
See that?
I see it drifting. Oh yeah. Oh, it's drifting.
I had to concentrate to do it.
Oh.
Tim, how do you not remember that I could do this, Tim?
Did it take you a year to do this?
I know know how I figured out I could do it. Like, I think I just got distracted one time, and then I realized that one eye was drifting off, and I was like, oh, that's weird. Somebody should do something about this.
I should go see a doctor.
I should talk to somebody about this, but...
Oh, man.
It looks like a dual shock that, like, the analog stick is just kind of broken on the left side.
Yeah, and I got Joy-Con drift my eyes.
We have the former Imran Khan.
Kevin, I appreciate you, and not enough people tell you that.
It's just like I have
not enough
a
people
couple
do tell him that
things that
Imran
I
appreciates him.
that I can physically do, Imran, that I've been able to do my entire life that are weird. Okay, and one of them is control one of my eyes independently on its own. And like, how does Tim not know that?
When did I comment at all on whether or not you could do it?
Greg was like, "Do you know anyone that can do it?" And you stood there like an asshole, silent.
Did he ask me that?
He asked everyone that when the show started, right?
Then why didn't you say I did it? I could do it.
Because
Yeah,
I
I mean,
wanted to
that's the
see.
thing,
I
like,
wanted
you're
to see
kinda
if
there.
you'd stand up and remember this one fun fact about me. But once
I was
again, you
too
disappoint.
stuck on the boom boom huck jam. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kind of Funny Gamescast. Each and every week right here on youtube.com/Kind of Funny Games. We get together to talk about video games and all the things that we love about them. You can watch the show live as we record it by going to patreon.com/Kind of Funny Games. Just like our Patreon producers, Muhammad, Get Healthy with Hiram at gmail.com, Tom Bach, Skin Tight Salmon, Jeffrey P. Long, Julian, the gluten-free gamer, Sancho West Gaming, and James Hastings all are doing. Thank you all very much for what you're doing for us here at Kind of Funny. You can watch the show later on youtube.com/Kind of Funny Games or roosterteeth.com if you want to listen to it. We're a podcast. Just search your favorite podcast service for Kind of Funny Games Cast, and we will be there for all of you. I want to get right into it, guys. Crash Bandicoot 4.
Wowie,
It's about
wow.
time. The game finally coming out. Never thought I'd see the day, Imran. Never thought I'd see the day we get a brand new Crash Bandicoot game that's worth a damn. Back in 2015, it must have been, because it was when we first left IGN. I made a Let's Play video of me playing through Crash Bandicoot 1. And Colin was asking me, like, what is the dream? What is the goal for you and Crash Bandicoot? And for me, I'm like, I don't want a new game. I just want remakes of 1, 2, and 3, because there's no chance that the new game is good. No chance in hell. And then a couple years passed, they announced this trilogy remaster from the ground up. I am stoked out of my mind. Then that trilogy comes out, and it's fantastic. Such a faithful recreation of those games, kept all the magic of what makes those games what they are. Notice I'm not saying what made them good, just what they are, right? Now there's a new game. After we've gotten Tony Hawk remakes, after we've gotten Spyro remakes, Crash Team Racing, Crash Insane Trilogy, we're finally getting a new game from Toys for Bob, and it is fantastic. It is definitely the best Crash Bandicoot game in existence. I am so thrilled about this. I think it is going to actually introduce so many people into what the good ideas that Crash had, the good memories you have of the old Crash games, actually implemented in a way that is very kind of forward thinking for what a platformer can be. Imran, this one's for you here. The game reminds me a lot of Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze.
Oh, that is very high praise. That is, I just need to come in and like it, because like you're Tim, you're gonna like a new Crash game. I understand that.
That's not true. Not necessarily.
Okay, you're going to like a faithful retro revival of Crash. That is my assumption. I did not expect you to compare it to Tropical Freeze, because I know when you say that you understand the extreme gravity of what that means when you say it to me. Tim fucking loves Tropical Freeze. We agree on the fact that it is one of the best, if not the best 2D platformer out there.
Now, to be clear, it is nowhere near as good as Tropical Freeze. It just does a lot of the things Tropical Freeze does right, and applies it to the Crash formula, which is essentially making sure that every single level doesn't feel like filler, and that every single level kind of doesn't just feel like, all right, we're in the snowland now, so we got to do the snow things over and over and then move on to a new idea. It's constantly kind of iterating, and even within one level, it feels like a story is being told, and the backgrounds aren't just reused assets that you're seeing over and over and over. And that's something that we saw in the original Donkey Kong Country games and in the original Crash games. But what Tropical Freeze did that I really love is every single element of the level design kind of has a reason to be there. Like when there's a platform, it's being held up by something underneath it. When a platform is flying, it's because you see the fan underneath it blowing it up. It all felt like it was part of a world that could be real.
There's
right?
environmental storytelling
in a platformer, right? And that sounds like a silly thing to say, but it's like storytelling, but mixed with kind of like trying to build out a world that makes sense. That's not just, oh, it's a video game, you know?
Sure.
And Crash doesn't do that. It doesn't necessarily do a thing where it's like there's a reason for every single thing being here. But what it does do is throughout the levels, there is that storytelling. And it reminds me, again, of like Sonic the Hedgehog 2, or sorry, 3 specifically, where it's like as you're going through the levels, you're seeing things change. And Bless, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
A whole bunch of that. And then applying that to the best the Crash Bandicoot gameplay has to offer, which is essentially, hey, we understand that a lot of the gimmicky levels are what people remember the most from Crash, the motorcycle stuff, riding on the polar bear, like all of that stuff, right? That stuff took up way too much of the original games, that in a way that was just so janky and distracting from what the core gameplay actually is. And that's something, Greg, we've talked about for years, about a whole bunch of different video games, is you get to the final boss and all of a sudden the gameplay totally changes. Totally different game.
Not nearly as good.
Never a good idea.
Yeah.
The old Crash games would do that 2 out of every 5 levels. And it was just kind of just a system where it's like every warp room, there's 5 levels, there's 3 normal levels that have a theme, and then 2 levels that are gimmicks. And those gimmicks sometimes were fun, sometimes were cool, but most of the time were kind of trash compared to the rest of the game. And even on top of that, the platforming levels that were the 3 out of 5 of each world every single world would give you like a new ability that you're adding to your arsenal for mobility or for whatever it is. Crash 4 is just like, we're going to start you off as a fully powered Crash. You have all the abilities you need. You have the long jump. You have just like all this stuff where it's like double jump. You don't need to get that later, because the problem in the other games is by the time you get it, there's only 10 levels left.
Yeah.
Right. This one from the beginning, every single challenge is designed around Crash's abilities, and they give you everything that you need to then have fun with the levels and make them difficult, challenging, but not frustrating to the point that you are just banging your head against the wall. Right.
Yeah.
But what I really appreciate is they didn't get rid of the gimmick stuff. They just made the gimmick stuff fit in a bit more and just make it a fun little distraction away from the platforming that you're doing, but it never lasts too long that you're just like, this isn't fun and I'm not enjoying this. There is no specific levels that are, this is just the gimmick. It's always in the level for a small little portion of it, and that goes to the Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze stuff, where it's like, that game's at its worst when it's just a minecart level. But when the minecart stuff is kind of a bit of a platforming level that's really well designed, it's like, oh man, this is actually really well thought out and paced in a way that it kind of breaks up the monotony of, you know, just jumping over a whole bunch of shit over and over and over. And on top of that, they add the 4 quantum mass in this, and that's kind of the game's gimmick of giving Crash different abilities, whether it's like slowing down time or flipping gravity, or just like having different types of powers. And none of them are really used in ways that we haven't seen before, but they're kind of just like really, really good examples of those gameplay mechanics in a platforming game. And because the level design is so good, it's always interesting and always fresh, and the game doesn't overstay its welcome, but there's a lot of replay value. I beat it. It took me about 2 days. But there is so much more for me to do in this game. And
how much were you playing those 2 days, you think? Was it like all you were doing? Okay.
I would say the total, I've probably put like 6 or 7 hours into it. And again, 2D platformer, or 3D 2D platform. It's kind of a mesh
hybrid.
Yeah. But the thing about Crash games, and this goes especially for the originals, is beating the game was never like the end of it. It's like you want to go back. There's the relics, the time trials, the gems that you're trying to find, like all the hidden stuff. And if you're trying to get all that in this game, it is extremely, extremely difficult. And that's another thing where it reminds me a bit of Tropical Freeze, where it's like beating the game is fine, but having to go back and get all of the different collectibles, like that's where the real challenge lies. And this game kind of incentivizes you to want to at least try to do all of that in your first run, and you're not going to. Like, you're constantly gonna, like, I had to stop myself and be like, I need to keep moving forward, but I want to go back and see if I can get that gem. I saw where it was, so can I do it? And the next thing you know, I'm going back to the old level. And it's like, I have had a great time with this game. It reminds me of so many different elements that I love about platforming games. And I am shocked that a Crash game is actually good, if not great. I think that this is actually a great game. And Imran, specifically, I'm excited for you to play because I'd want to hear your thoughts on it, because I take it you're not the biggest Crash Bandicoot fan.
I enjoyed what I played of the PS1 games. After that, I just immediately, like, it wasn't even a slow fall off. It was like, no, I don't even need to pay attention to this stuff. I'd never played the remakes. I've wanted to give myself like some time to do so, but I think I might just jump into this first.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely do that. I mean, that's the thing, is like the remakes are good for the nostalgia that you have for them. And, you know, there's elements of those games that are awesome. But they do not hold up in a way of, if you've never played them before, this is like something I'd recommend. Whereas Crash 4 entirely is that. And I think the only thing that's a little weird to me tonally is it's very much a Saturday morning kids cartoon. And I can see kids absolutely loving this game. But there's a difficulty shift towards the end of it that I'm like, I can't imagine any kid actually beating this. It's pretty damn difficult.
Takes me back to classic 3D platformers.
Yeah, and I enjoy it, but it's like it was pretty hard. But also the story, it's what it needs to be. It's just fun, stupid stuff. I would say it actually is pretty funny throughout. Like there wasn't anything that I like cringed at, but many of the jokes are specifically targeted towards me, like being a Crash fan.
Tim Gettys.
Pretty much, it's like it's making references to like previous Crash games that I'm gonna be really shocked to see like how many people actually get the references.
How many
like,
Twinsanity references are there?
There's enough.
Oh wow!
Like that's the thing, is like they go deep, and like there'll be things in the levels where I'm like, wow, they really have that thing from Wrath of Cortex. Like that's so random. But it's cool and it's fun, and like I appreciate it. I just think it's weird that for a game that's clearly directed at children playing it for the first time, with the way that it's written and the way that the characters are acting, some of the jokes they're making are just so specifically tied to the Crash lore that I'm like, those aren't the same kids that you're writing.
Isn't that a hallmark of something good like that? Like when I think back to watching Animaniacs, right, and even Tiny Toons, I remember watching them years later and catching like Pulp Fiction references and things in there that clearly weren't designed for the kid watching it who loved the show. They were designed for my parent in the room. Wouldn't this be the same case where if it's a kid's game, what does the story need to be for a kid to be excited? They're there for the colors and hopefully the challenge and the collectibles, right? Whereas a parent or an older gamer like yourself is going to be there for the nostalgia.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, but I just think that it's weird when it's referencing itself. You know, like it's referencing Crash and it's Crash's history, which I don't know that there's enough people out there that, you know, the 5 lines of dialogue back and forth are worth the joke. You know,
does he call anybody Plumber Boy?
He does not call anybody Plumber Boy. Yeah, yeah. But
call anybody like a spiky hedgehog or anything like that?
No. But there is like a reference to like a wombat, and it's like Crash was originally going to be a wombat.
Oh,
so it's like things like that, you know, that I very much enjoyed, and it's like it's very clear the team that made this game like really cares about what makes Crash good and what makes Crash memorable to everybody. There's a ton of unlockable skins. Not as far as I can tell. I know for a fact no microtransactions for this at all. Every single thing you can get is earned in the game. Ton of skins you can get. Coco and Crash are both playable at any moment right out the gate, pretty much. You have to play like one level as Crash, and then the story brings them together. And from then on, any level you want, you can play as Coco or Crash, and they both have about 20 unlockable skins. One of the skins for each one of them is a Mario Odyssey style polygonal old OG one, which is the one I went with from as soon as I could. And what I appreciate about it is you get that pretty early on. Like it's not like, oh, you have to beat the game again. It's like they let me play through as the one that I obviously wanted to play as, you know.
That's good.
The music is as good as it's ever been, and that has been a hallmark of the Crash games, having such a fun, unique vibe to it. And yeah, it is this like Tiny Toons Animaniacs vibe the entire way through that is backed up by extremely solid platforming and gameplay that is really showing off what makes running around and jumping on things fun.
That's really good to hear. Like, I know for me, I really enjoy 3D platformers, and Crash has always been one of those franchises that I've never been able to get into, mainly because like I just didn't feel like they were good. Specifically like I was gonna say specifically the PS1 ones, even though those are probably the ones that people would say are the best ones. But like for me growing up, I remember as a kid, I think the one I played was Wrath of Cortex on the PS2, and then following that, I think I had like a demo disc for Crash Bash that I played a whole bunch. And Crash Bash, you know what, man? Shout out to Crash Bash.
Hey, shout out to Crash Bash. It's a really bad Mario Party clone, but hey,
like,
the demo was fun with the paint jumping.
Yes, the paint jumping, and then there was like the ice mini game where you try to push people off. Like I think you're like riding polar bears or something like that. But yeah,
Mark Cerny original that game.
Is it really?
Yes.
That's awesome. Yeah, shout out to Crash Bash because I actually really did like that demo. But you saying that it is genuinely a great game is making me want to actually pick it up and check it out because I know
love it, Bless. You're gonna absolutely love this game.
Well, here's the question though: am I gonna love it? Because remember that when they showed at the last PlayStation conference and they showed the, the different modes you play through at the end with like the inverse of colors and all that jazz. That was really when the gameplay in general looked good, but that's what turned my head of like, oh man, like there's more going on to this game than I think I gave it credit for, and I really do like what I've seen gameplay wise. I'm excited to try it. Am I gonna stick with it? So, going from the second thing you said first, that stuff is the worst part of the game. Like that stuff is extremely gimmicky, and I mean, even Andy, when it was first being shown, was kind of just like, this just looks like someone's first time using Photoshop filters. Sure. And that's kind of how it feels. And they kind of use that as you can play through any of the levels with those different styles, and then you get different gems and stuff. And it's kind of just trying to give you more things to do. But playing through it that way is very frustrating. There's moments in the game that it kind of does it in the normal campaign, and those aren't that bad because, like the other gimmicky stuff, it doesn't last long, and it kind of feels like it has a purpose there. But just going through other levels with like weird looks, at least with the ones that I did, I was just like there's an inverted mode, and then all the colors are just inverted and off, and like it just makes things hard to see. And in a game that like kind of needs a lot of precision, that's where it starts to be like, all right, well, this isn't fun, it's just frustrating. Like it's not challenging.
Like, this isn't ideally how you're gonna play it. It sounds like they're taking the note from how I know Uncharted has like a similar thing where you can apply different filters to how you play, and that's always like a thing where I'll go and check them out, but I'll never actually play the game that way. It strikes me like that.
Totally. And I thought it was weird that they kind of marketed that as like a feature. Because it was just like, and I get why they did, is because that is a big part of the replayability of like, for the people that want to get the over 100%, another similarity to Donkey Kong Country is once you get 100, you ain't done, baby. But like, it's for people that want to go crazy with that stuff.
Do you think this feeds into Crash continuing as a franchise? Like, do you think they go on to make Crash 5 and Crash 6?
Absolutely. This game is awesome. People are going to love it. I think it's going to review very well. I think it's going to sell very well. I imagine like this is something we're going to get a lot more of, and I'm very excited about that. Like, if I were to put a number on it, I would probably be somewhere between an 8.5 and a 9.
So wait, now hold on. I'll come back to me though, because I care about Greg Miller. The thing that looks cool at the end with the colors and the inversion, and Andy shat on it because that's what he does, and what has he ever created? That doesn't matter. But gameplay wise, am I going to be into it? Because I feel like I'm in the mood. We saw Crash, or I'm sorry, we saw Ratchet and Clank, and I was like, oh yeah, I feel like I could go for one of these games right now.
I can imagine there are parts of this game that are going to be challenging to a way that you just don't enjoy.
Okay.
Crash is very much a trial and error game. However, this one, there's modern mode and classic mode, and classic mode is only there for the people that would be mad if it wasn't.
They want to be tortured,
The game is not designed around classic mode, which is essentially there's game overs and you're collecting lives and all that stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong,
Imran, this classic mode, referring to what Crash originally was, Crash is what started the Soulsborne idea of gameplay, right?
Miyazaki worked on the original game, and it was like, I could make this easier, and then
So, but with modern mode, it kind of functions like a more modern 3D platformer where you don't have lives. You're going through, and instead, all the Wumpa fruit you're collecting, which might as well be coins in Mario.
Sure.
There are challenges associated with collecting a certain amount per level. And that's the other thing, is like everything you're collecting in the levels, all is feeding towards different things that you actually want to be doing. So breaking open every crate gets you a gem. Getting certain amounts of the Wumpa fruit gets you gems. So you're just collecting these gems, and there's like 6 gems per level. And all of a sudden, it starts feeling a lot more like Mario 64 than the original Crash games do, where every single run, you're kind of like, or even Mario Odyssey, like kind of like a mix. where as you're going through the levels, you're like, I want to try to get all 6 of the gems in one run. And it's very difficult to do, but it incentivizes you to look at every nook and cranny of the level and kind of explore as much as you can. And again, it's a Crash game, so it's not like you're in these giant open worlds. It's very
Tim,
much
you gotta play Astrobot Rescue Mission. I think you would fucking adore that game.
Yep.
And then also, Greg, a reminder, because you're saying you're in the mood. Like, Astro's Playroom comes out in a month and a half, and that's gonna be game of the year. And so
I was
I'm not gonna binge on all this. Don't worry, I'll be able to do both. Right. I can do both.
Just making sure.
As Tim
also,
was
one
describing
demo that won't get reviewed by IGN.com.
Like this, as Tim was describing this, I was thinking it kind of sounded more like what we know of Sackboy a little bit, like that new Sackboy game coming at launch. Now that
that one looks like Super Mario 3D World, right?
Right, which is also what I think he's describing a little bit.
Is that what you're describing, Tim? Yeah, I was turning it 100%. Back that way.
Yeah. It is. It's definitely Mario 3D World esque, but it's Mario 3D World, but with a little bit of Celeste. And Greg, this is where I'm going with you, where it's like, I don't know that it's a game for you necessarily, because
I really enjoyed Celeste, just never beat it yet.
But that's the thing. It's like, I think that you could really enjoy Crash 4 until you hit a point that you're like,
I'm like, fuck this, it's too hard. Okay.
I'm not down to like try this the 15 more times that I'm going to need to get through it.
Okay.
In the way that Celeste is very room based, where every single thing's on a screen that you have to get through, and then there's the strawberries. That's how Crash feels constantly. You're going through and you're like, all right, I could just run through this, and that's challenging enough. But the real goal is to break all the crates. So it's like you can choose to do that. Once you realize there's a crate, you're like, I'm not even gonna fucking try to get that. It makes getting through the whole level a lot easier, because now all of a sudden you're like, I don't even need to try to get the rest of them. I'm just trying to get to the end. There's a lot of checkpoints, and once you get to a checkpoint, you can die as many times as you want. It brings you right back, and you don't need to worry about the lives and all that stuff.
How are the loads? How are the checkpoints? Are they generous with checkpoints? Load time short?
So many, and that's why I'm saying it feels Celeste-like, in the sense that the game's very well paced in giving you these kind of like bite-sized challenges to get through, and then there's always optional harder things that you can do. But it's extremely well designed, and like Toys for Bob really, really knocked it out of the park. I am so impressed with it being the first new game, because they've only been doing all the remakes. So the teams over there, going from Tony Hawk and then this, Activision are just firing on all cylinders when it comes to the 90s retro nostalgia wave.
What do you think?
I'm officially excited.
Is there anything they have left?
What do you say, Bless?
Is there anything Activision has left, like in that like same regard of Tony Hawk and Crash, that they can go back to, like a Spyro revival?
Yes.
Well, actually, I guess we got the remakes, didn't we?
We got the Spyro remakes.
They're making a new Spyro at some point, right? Like, when they announced, or not announced, but during an investor call, they said like, yeah, we're probably going to make new games with this stuff instead of just remasters. I think Spyro was one of the ones they name checked.
I mean, they didn't announce a new Spyro game, but they might have been talking about the Spyro.
They did not officially
trilogy.
announce anything, but in the same vein of hinting at this game, they basically said Crash and Spyro are two of the ones that are looking at for stuff like that.
There will be a new Spyro.
Yes.
Like, there has to be.
Lad Bible has an article from March. It says a new Spyro game is in development, according to reports. That's what you got there.
Yeah.
Looking here, and it looks like Prototype was published by Activision, and so I'm waiting on that one. Bring back Prototype.
You want Prototype 3? That's what you're asking for.
Yeah.
To be clear.
Yes.
Huh.
Or a remake.
Huh.
I'm not serious, by the way. I'm totally joking.
Here's what I would say. I'd be fine with a Prototype reboot. I don't need a remake of Prototype 1, which was
I've actually never played
inferior
Prototype.
to Infamous.
I assume it was just like another Infamous, right?
Yeah. It is, but it's like a billion times faster and not as well designed. So like depending on it's fun to play, it's just not actually all that good well designed a game.
I very vividly remember the commercials on TV, because they went really hard with being like, oh yeah, like he has the evil that's taking over him or whatever.
Totally.
He's open world city and all this different stuff.
The commercial was all right.
He's
evil. Open world city.
But there's Beanox, like Vicarious Visions, Beanox, Toys for Bob, and somehow between the three of them in different collaborations, that's where we're getting the Tony Hawk, Spyro, Crash, either remasters, remakes, or sequels. So I imagine that with the success of these games, we're going to see more Crash Bandicoots, we're going to see a new Spyro, and at some point, we're going to either see more Tony Hawk remakes or a new Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
And God, is it a good time to be Tim Gettys? Holy shit. What a year. Like, oh, what a month. In 1 month, I got both of these games. God.
Yeah, what's left on your dream list, Tim?
Please say no more pandemic. Please say no more pandemic. Please say no more pandemic.
What was left was Sands of Time, and we're getting what we're getting. I hope that it's good. But
it'll
then
be
after
good.
that,
Whether it could be as good as it should be is a different question.
Absolutely. But yeah, no, I think at this point it just gets back down to Metal Gear Solid and Time Splitters.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
I want
doing
a
the remaster,
Splitters.
so they're probably doing a new game. But
we'll see. We'll see. Anyways, before we move on, any more Crash questions or?
It's only on PS4 right now, right?
Crash is on everything.
Is it?
Isn't it?
I thought it was just on PS4, and it's like that thing like where they did a Crash remake, where they just put it on other stuff later.
No, it's everywhere.
No, it's on Xbox too. Yeah,
okay.
for sure.
It's everywhere except for Switch.
Okay, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. That like it'll come to Switch eventually, probably. But yeah.
It's always
PS4, Xbox One is confirmed.
Yeah, I played on PS4. I don't really think there'd be an advantage.
Yeah, I can't
one way or
imagine a
another.
big difference.
Yeah. But anyway, before we move on, let me tell you about our sponsors. Now that we're back, while I was playing Crash 4, you gentlemen got to play Star Wars Squadrons. I can't wait to hear about this because I'm excited about it. Blessing, what do you think?
And I'm really enjoying this thing. I don't know where to start in this conversation because
it's tough, right?
Yeah, because I feel like there's a lot to break down because like I'm only about like 5 missions in, which I guess like means like 7 missions in because there's like prologues and stuff.
If I can full time out right now, I do think what's interesting is we wade into this. Tim's review of Crash is complete, right? He's played the whole game. He's done all this different stuff. It's on lock. What I do think, I know so many of our audience members like the inside baseball behind the scenes stuff that happens with this. Our review for Star Wars Squadrons is far from a final thing. This is a review so far. Codes came in on Monday for this. We got to play till today, which is Wednesday. Review embargo is Thursday morning. So you figure we had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday with it. However, the actual multiplayer servers weren't turned on until Wednesday morning today as we record this. Basically, servers were live from about 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We started this show at 2 p.m. So even now, if we wanted to go back in, the servers are off. So it is a weird this is definitely a review in progress. That is not what the game will look like under the real stress test of everybody else playing it. A whole bunch of different things. But like I'm in the same way of, if you don't, just for a second, hijacking Bless. I haven't finished the story either because got the codes Monday, started playing Monday night, and the thing was very clear. And they did a great job in terms of instructions and embargoes and all that stuff. But they were like, hey, for your play session on Wednesday, you should be through story mission 5 at least, and you need to be level 5 in multiplayer at least to jump right into everything. So it was this. I played a bunch of story stuff Monday into Tuesday, then focused on leveling up into the multiplayer stuff that it was like offline against bots stuff on that to then get to here on Wednesday. So it's kind of like I feel like I've played a hodgepodge of both modes, but haven't like completed in quotes either of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Sorry, back to you, Blessing, just so people understood where we're coming from.
Well, that's actually a perfect place to start from because where I'm at so far in the game, it still feels like I am figuring out how to play the game, and this is 2 days into playing, and that speaks more so I think to how kind of deep the game feels mechanically and how many options that are at your disposal as you're flying through space, dogfighting, doing all this different stuff. To start with where do I even want to start? To start with like controlling this game, because that's kind of where my focus has been, because like story wise, like it seems like there's a cool story there, but I don't necessarily care. Like I'm not the biggest Star Wars person, and the story that they're presenting here, it's not Jedi Fallen Order. Like I don't really care about this Rebel versus Empire back and forth when it is very specifically like a story about these soldiers and what they're going through to have this back and forth. And also, and I guess I'm just going to talk about story now. Actually, the way they present it is you're playing both sides. And so you have a
character for each side.
Yeah. I was trying to think of the word for pilot. You have a pilot, you know, that you create for the Rebel side, and then a pilot that you create for the Empire side. And the creation tools don't really seem that deep. It really does seem like you're choosing like an avatar, basically. And
a couple different faces, couple different voices. Yeah. Which body shape do you want? All right, go for it.
Exactly. And like I actually do like how they did the body shapes, because I think we've been seeing a trend recently in games where Tim pointed this out during the Tony Hawk review, where like, yeah, the way they go about it, like you have different voices you can choose for your character, and it is like, you know, voice 1, voice 2, and there's like a certain quality to it, right? So like pilot 1, pilot 2, veteran 1, veteran 2, and the 1 voice will be a voice that skews more on like the woman side, and then the 2 voice will be the voice that skews more towards the male side, right? So you can get that kind of feel, but they don't really label it that way. And then they also do go for body types as opposed to you picking your gender, and so like it doesn't really like create those arbitrary lines when it comes to how you're going to put that stuff together, which I really appreciate. And like it gets the job done too. Like you can have a character that is basically tailored to how you want them to present, which is cool. That said, like you don't really like mold the face or anything. Like it is what you get. And then also that said, the game is also entirely in first person, and so you don't see that character for the most part anyway.
You see their hands a lot, but the hands really don't matter.
Like, yes. And then when you're in multiplayer, you'll see your avatar up here or whatever, and then like on the victory or losing screen, you'll see your character there.
Yeah. And to stick with this even more, a thing that surprised me, and I'm sure you guys have noticed this too, it seems like this game was built with a lot more focus toward the VR side of things than like you would think, like going into it. When you jump into the story mode, like you have sequences where you're first person, you're talking to different characters to like figure out what the mission is. You can navigate through your base and like go to different places, but you're not walking in first person. You're doing the exact thing you would do in VR, which is you look around and then you teleport to where you want to go by like clicking one of the options, and then it automatically teleports you there as opposed to you walking, which I think is very fascinating because I could see a case where this game started off as a VR game and they're like, no, we got to sell this to more people. Yeah. Let's expand this out.
I assume it's less that it's that, but also a bunch of games around this got canceled. So I'm assuming that just the scope and development of this probably expanded as time went on. It's like, okay, we don't have another Star Wars game this year or these 2 years. We need to put more into this thing. And also then it needs to sell more. So like there are parts of you just get into the X-Wing and just look around the cockpit, and there's no point to this except if it were in VR. That would be cool.
Yeah, if it was in VR, it's like, okay, yeah, like when you're talking to characters and your only option really is to just like look around. I'm like, okay, yeah, in VR, this would make a lot of sense. But when I'm playing this on a console, like I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's if anything, it's kind of weird. But like
I was gonna say, right, it's interesting. Like jumping around and getting into because again, and I'm, by no means do I think the story's tacked on. I obviously, Mitch Dyer, we worked with at IGN, and I think Walt did as well. Walt Williams, right? I know Mitch for sure wrote the story. I think he wrote it with Walt again, the same folks who worked on the single player for Battlefront 2. I'm not saying they tacked this on or whatever, but I think that the heart of this game is being in the cockpit and playing. So I think that they took liberty, like we need a single player thing. Let's give you a story, which they do. But then, the presentation is such a different choice. Who just scared Tim? If he's taking off the headset, he's holding his heart. Like, what I mean? Now he's waving goodbye.
It looks like somebody very respectable walked into Tim's room.
I know, right? Like, did Biden just swing through? That's what it looks like. I want to thank you for your support on Twitter. What happened there, buddy?
Gio walked in and scared the fuck out of me.
Was she like, "Where's my water bottle? Why did you take it?"
Exactly. Yeah.
No. I still know who it is.
That's hilarious.
Anyways, so like it is a lot of the character dialogue you get from it reminded me so much, and don't pick up your pitchforks because I don't mean it this way. It reminded me so much of Anthem, and the way you would go up to people in Anthem and they would talk in front of you in this scene you would watch, right? And then you'd be on to whatever you're about to go do. Like it had that setup and it had that kind of presentation, and they call you by your call sign or whatever, and you get to jump around between all that stuff. But I was right there with you, Blessing, and I think again maybe it's just how I was playing the game. And how I think the focus is being in the cockpit. It is being up in the stars and fighting, right? It was that thing of early on, I started off and I'm paying attention and going. And then by like mission 3, I'm for the record, I think I'm in mission 9 right now of 14. I was like, okay. And eventually I just like you leave when you're in there, you can, either inspect your X-Wing, you can talk to the bot, you can talk to this other guy, you can go into the briefing room, get what mission you're about to. After the briefing, you can talk to the NPCs, or you can, it eventually became, all right, cool. From looking at my X-Wing to the briefing table to back in my X-Wing, like let's go fight.
Exactly. Like, at a certain point, like I was like, why am I talking to these people? Because everything they're saying is going over my head in a way where it's not bad. Like I don't think the writing is bad anywhere, but it is like I just don't like I don't care about what they're really saying right here. I just want to go in the cockpit and like go into these flights and do this stuff.
I also don't think the writing is bad. However, the character named Gunny really liking guns, a little too far. I don't think that was necessary.
Yeah, and there are some story moments that like early on in the story where I was like, okay, no, this is like a really cool thing. And I'm not like gonna spoil anything, but they do have points where I was like, all right, yeah, I see where you're going there. That's pretty cool. But to get into the actual gameplay, I think that really is where the game shines. Where they do such a good job of driving one of the ships in this game really does feel like learning how to drive a car for the first time, where I am like, all right, I can adjust my speed by going forward or backward on my left analog stick. All right, cool. Okay, if I want to be able to dodge something, I gotta go at half speed, so I gotta pay attention to that. And then like slowly as you're learning by each mission, they're throwing new things at you in terms of mechanics that by the time, like now that I'm at mission 5, I feel like I'm managing so many things in my ship, and it is a really cool feeling. Like you have countermeasures they can throw out when you have a missile that's coming at you. You have like your lasers that you can use to take out ships. You have your rockets that you can deploy. You have
there's different missiles to fire if you want to take down a shield or if you want to do body damage to whatever you're attacking.
Yeah, and all that stuff kind of feeds into this really cool experience of, oh, cool, I really do feel like I am controlling this ship and having to manage all these different things while also having to make sure that I am going after these enemy ships and taking them out and managing the objective and listening to what my teammates have to say to me in the single player. And I'm sure that's going to feed into the multiplayer because there's multiple modes there, including Fleet Battle, which is an objective-based mode. I'm excited to play more and more of this game because so far, first impression, it's really cool to experience, but then also like it looks beautiful. And I don't know if this is just because I'm playing on my big 4K TV that I have in my living room now. But like, I'm really enthralled visually by how it looks. It has a lot going on with it. I'm enjoying so much of it.
Let me ask you guys a question, and I'm assuming the answer is going to be no because Blessing, you're too young, and Greg, you've never touched a PC in your life. Right. But did you guys play X-Wing or TIE Fighter as kids?
Fuck you, Imran. I did.
Really? I'm legitimately surprised.
Thank you. No, yeah, Poe, Poe, who comes up all the time, is my casual video game, but my best friend player. Poe is obsessed with the X-Wing TIE Fighter stuff. So I would be the guy, and this is, I know, horrifying for everyone to hear, but as I was the video game guy, I was the guy who'd come over and try to make his shitty PC run it and try to figure it out and look through, fucking bulletin boards, right, on how to trying to figure out how to get around this and how to make your stupid memory. And this is probably why I hate PC gaming so much. But through that, I would play them, and they were never my bag. Like they were never like something I loved. I think I talk about all the time of video games for me being a fantasy, and for me, and even we talk about Star Wars, something last year where I really feel last year is the first time I ever fell in love with Star Wars, where I liked Star Wars and I played and I liked Force Awakens or Force Unleashed games, and I loved BioWare, Knights of the Old Republic. But something about last year, that perfect time period of Tim and I going to play Fallen Order, going to Disney and building the lightsaber and being at the cantina. And then whether you liked it or hated it, I enjoyed the Star Wars movie. And I was like, man, I finally get why people really love this shit. Like, for me, the fantasy, even for Knights of the Old Republic, was always wielding the lightsaber and being a Jedi, never being in the cockpit and being in the army kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And so for watching Poe play, and that was his obsession, and I played enough through him or watched him play enough next to him that I had a feel on him. Sorry, Imran, continue with your line of questioning, though.
So this game immediately reminded, I think not even reminded, it's their stated mission goal was to kind of invoke X-Wing and TIE Fighter and those old things, but not be quite as old, I guess. Like one of the very first things I did in this game was I tried to ram myself into a Star Destroyer to see if I just explode, and you just kind of crash to the side. And initially that was like a little disappointing, like, oh well, the old games you just explode. And I thought, no, that kind of sucked too, because sometimes you would just run into something. So it's good that they don't just kill you for doing that. But like there are aspects of when I'm sitting with a mouse and keyboard playing this game, and I kind of wish I had a flight stick, but whatever. And it reminds me of, oh, I remember this is how it felt like when I was a kid and playing those games, and like moving my mouse and trying to just get an aim or an X-Wing that's like slightly out of the way or whatever. Like that's how that game felt. So I think they did a really good job of trying to hit how those games felt without hewing to exactly what those games were in every aspect.
You nail it. I think that was my biggest thing coming in, is that as someone who doesn't have that fantasy and remembers, Poe at the keyboard and mouse and how complicated it was to have all the different things there, my concern coming in was, especially when they started talking about, like, it's the same things they talk about. If you ever hear a developer say, oh yeah, there's going to be some little issues at launch, that means there's going to be gigantic fucking issues, because you never say that. In the same way, when they were talking about this, like, oh well, like it's a game that's going to require like that, or you are saying this is going to be a hard game. If you're even slightly broaching that, hey, yeah, there's a lot going on under the hood, this is going to be super complicated. And to Blessing's point and to echo it, like, playing through the story mode, the way they started peppering stuff in of, how the left stick works is both your throttle and your pitch and yaw. The way, like, it is, I was like, okay, I remember this being more complicated, but it isn't, because, like, down on my panel, right, like, you can send the power for your ship to either being, to your thrusters, so you fly faster. And this changes ship to ship, by the way, but for the X-Wing I'm in my head with right now, fly faster. Send it over to red, so my weapons are doing more damage, or send it to green for shields, so I'm really powering up my shields. And I was like, oh, I remember that sounding more complicated, but I guess it wasn't, haha. And then you get 4 missions in, it's like, all right, now hold square, and you can decide if you want to throw all your shields to the front or the back. I'm like, oh my god, okay, fuck, shit.
And like, I got to that point, and I was like, wow, this is a lot. But then, like, in practice, I was like, wow, this is so cool, to where, I'm flying at a very slow speed. And then all of a sudden something happens and I need to go max speed. And I'm like, all right, let me think. How do I go max speed?
Yeah.
All right, I got to throw all my power into speed. All right, cool. I'm going faster. All right, what do I need to do now? Okay. Oh, I got a boost now. All right, let's boost.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, the amount of choices that you have to make in your head to do one thing. And this sounds like a complaint, but it's actually something that I really enjoy and I want to get good at, because this sounds like it could have a really high skill ceiling if you end up just putting all your energy into playing this game. But like, like figuring out how to, all right, I need to figure out how to, like, get my lasers the most powerful. All right, well, how do I take out an enemy as fast as possible? What do I need to alternate between when it comes to, like, lasers versus rockets? All right, cool. How do I perfectly dodge a missile? There's a mission early on in the game where they're teaching you, like, all right, this is how you dodge a missile. You have to go to half speed, and then you have to basically maneuver. And it took me maybe 10 times, like 10 tries, to actually get that perfect, because they want you to control that ship in a very particular way. And something about it, when you're able to pull it off, feels very satisfying, that I really appreciate. And also to the point where when you shift ships, and like when you're flying in different ships, there are different ways, or like there's different UI stuff, different methods to how you control them, and like that depth is off the chain to me.
No, and I think I understand that if you're in your car listening to this or just watching it and, whatever, maybe this does sound like a turnoff, but I think the way they do it empowers you rather than hinders you. Where, again, and even to be, frank with it right now, I think the game's great. I think everything you've said is true. It's beautiful. I do want to talk about VR in a little bit, because holy fucking shit. But it's still not my power fantasy, right? Like, I don't expect to play much more of it after this, because I was jumping in as somebody who's like, oh, well, would this work for me? It doesn't, but this is the first time in a while we've talked about a game, or I've reviewed, in quotes, a game here that is something that wouldn't be in my personal wheelhouse, but holy shit, do I respect it, and can I see what they're doing here, right? And to the point of everything we're talking about, like, having those moments of those little eureka moments, or when something does happen and you figure out what you need to do, where it is like you're talking, Bless, that it's like, oh shit, all right. Because, like, so one of the things we're talking about is fleet battles, Tim, right? And the idea behind this is you have your big capital ships, right? So you have one for the Republic and one for the Empire, right? Then you have in front of those 2 smaller ships that are like, they got a weird name that I can't remember off the top of my head. But they're like
corvettes,
like frigates and corvettes.
Frigates and corvettes, yeah, exactly. That are there protecting the Star Destroyer. I'm just gonna start saying, but it could be their capital ship. And then you have your different, both AI and human people flying around, right? Your little ships dogfighting, and it's 5v5. But then there are AI people that'll be involved too. So the idea here is it's wave based in terms of objective. It's tug of war. So the idea is that you have to take out enough of their ships that suddenly they're like, all right, they're falling back a bit. Now you need to go take out their frigates. You go take out the frigates, and then it'll be like, all right, now you can take on the Star Destroyer. And all of these have shields on top of health, and it's push and pull. So you get to start working on a frigate, but then they've taken out enough of your guys, so the line they have the battle front line, right, where it moves backwards there, and you're pushing and pulling the entire way. So figuring all that out, and the moment you have where, you know, you get shot down, you respawn, and you come out, and it's like, shit, the battle is all the way across the map. And I remember the first few times I did it, of like going and puttering along and sending it over to blue to have it all in my engines, but then not. Earlier in the game, I tried to use the boost, but it didn't work because I didn't realize I needed to be in the blue to have the boost. And so it's like those moments where you figure that out and you go, and it's like, oh, okay. And then to start piecing all together. It's the same way of, you know, I like the X-Wing, so I'm playing as the X-Wing all the time. And the story mode introduces you to all the different ships you have, right? It's the thing of, I was like, man, I keep shooting in this fleet battle. I played a bunch last night and then today, right? And I'm like, I'm just not doing that much damage to these ships. Maybe my role as X-Wing is to, you know, just continue to shoot down AI other people. And then, like, and they taught you this, but again, they're teaching you so much. Like a moron, it was like, oh, wait, when I can go back to my my big ship at any point, go in there and change out what ship I'm in. So it is that thing of like, again, oh, it's time to bomb the Star Destroyer. I should, if I've just respawned or if I'm close enough, go in there, get into a bomber, bring the bomber all the way out and do that. And it's that little thing of like, you know, and this is going to sound so fucking hoity-toity, but like games do give us so much instantaneously. And this game is rewarding you for playing more and having these experiences and probably listening to podcasts like this and reading articles and stuff like that. It is a thing of actually feeling like you're leveling up. Like I'm actually gaining my own personal experience where I know what to do in a specific instance.
I'm
so excited to play this, and I'm interested with a lot of what you guys are saying, because I played the X-Wing TIE Fighter games growing up, and I never vibed with them because it wasn't so much the fantasy theme Greg's talking about, because I totally love the X-Wing stuff, and Star Fox is like one of my favorite games, specifically Star Fox 64, and I loved everything about that game. But the thing I loved least was the all range mode stuff, where you're kind of just the on rail stuff always worked better for me because I kind of like felt like I was more in control of the parts that I wanted to be in control of. And I feel like when it gets to all range mode, which is more similar to this, it gets a little just too like, oh, damn it, I missed where I'm trying to go. Gotta like change around. And it's like really disorienting. Adding on top of that, I've never really enjoyed the first person cockpit view, whether it's driving in a racing game or for these type of things. There's just something about how claustrophobic it feels and how much of the screen's taken up by like things blocking your vision. Do you feel like with this game that without VR, you're getting a good field of view of the action going on?
I think it really depends on what ship you're in. And I think, again, that is something that's going to speak to the hardcore Star Wars fan that is this, right? Because it was, I actually forget what I want to say you start as Empire in this, right? And so I wasn't a TIE Fighter to begin with. And it was that, you know, circular hole to look through. And I was like, oh man, like, this is kind of weak or whatever. And then it was, you know, as the story starts putting you into different ships, it was the cockpit totally expanding, contracting, getting way more glass if you're in the, you know, the Y-wing or whatever. It was like, oh, like, again, like, it was this cool thing of understanding that these ships are different and have different abilities and have different purposes. And whether you're going to like that or not is a different thing. Whether you're going to want to just be in one ship all the time is another thing. But it's also, you know, the idea in a perfect world of how this game's supposed to work is it's us plus Andy, and we all jump in, and it is like, all right, cool. Guys, I just died. We've done the Star Destroyer. I'll come back as a bomber. You guys just keep them off my tail. You know what I mean? You have those kind of moments with it. Yeah,
I think that's a good point, that like the cockpit kind of takes up a good amount of like your field of view. And so to Greg's point, right? Like you kind of have a different field of view which with each ship, but the cockpit is so important to how you play because that is your UI. And so when we talk about rebalancing power towards one of your systems, right? Like there is a meter to the like the bottom left, probably, like it depends on the ship, but like for the most part, I think it's going to be on the bottom left where it is like, all right, here's your you can put it all to the different colors, so like blue for shield or whatever the thing may be, right? Red for lasers,
weapons,
for weapons, yeah. But then you'll have like another meter that is, hey, this is your like this is the overheat for your lasers, and if this goes all the way down, that means they're gonna be shooting slower. All right, yeah, this meter all the way over here is how fast you're going, and like you can shift it up or shift it down, and that is like when we're talking about field of view, there's so many UI elements that are part of that like you it's all kind of working in conjunction in a way where I think as far as what you're seeing like in space, like yeah, that's That is going to vary from ship to ship, but it all is pretty important to how you're playing.
Yeah, also, you generally don't need a field of view that much beyond just your cursor, and because like radar is doing most of the work for you. Okay, I just keep going on this thing until the X-wing shows up in the crosshairs. Crosshairs turn red. I can go ahead and shoot now.
Yeah, you have it. I think this is interesting too. I played on PlayStation. Imran, your PC, blessing your Xbox, right?
Yeah.
And so, for me, it's X of like when I'm out there flying, Tim, you can hit X to cycle through different enemies you'd want to target. And so you'll see then arrows on the screen pointing you to what direction they are. So you're whipping around that way. So yeah, it isn't as much about finding things on it. And again, for the immersive nature of what they're going for with this game, the dials and all the readouts, yeah, they do become so important. Like the amount of times I'm after something and I'm shooting and you can, use your droid to repair. And I'd go to tap and it would be like, meh, meh. And I'd like look down and like you look at the dial or the readout on the screen, right, to show it slowly charging up. And it's like, fuck. And it's the same thing of like the way you're throttling with the left stick, right? Like you have the best degrees of turn if you stay in the middle. So like that's when you want to like obviously, or that's key to like dodging missiles or being able to pull out of it at the last second kind of thing. So it's like riding that up and down, and again being like, okay, it's like incoming missile, and it's like ding, 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 and it's like it's getting closer, and it is that thing of like looking up at the readout on the screen, and then looking down at the throttle of like when to do it. All right, mid ding, and like they have drifting and all this other stuff. But to turn off of this, but bring it into the same conversation, VR. Obviously, the thing they've talked about with this game at EA Play, maybe you watched it. I heard the host was pretty cool and had a good plaid shirt. They talked about, right, this is cross-play with everything, just from the go get it, play with whoever you want to. And then also that VR is cross-play as well. So, drop in or do whatever you want with it. For me, I had already been playing I did all of Monday night on TV. And then Tuesday morning, I did a whole bunch. And then I was like, all right, I'm waiting for multiplayer because obviously that's going to be a big part of it. But I want to see what VR is all about, and unraveled the PlayStation VR, didn't turn off the system, plugged it all in, put on the PlayStation VR, hit the power button, immediately get the normal warning of like, clear your surroundings. Okay, did it. And then the game just went boom and put me right into it. And holy fucking shit. Like I've played VR is amazing, and we always talk about the hallelujah moments of putting on VR and having those come to Jesus moments when you do the thing, or I talk about reaching for my tie, or you try to reach out for something in the world that's not there. That game, the Squadrons, right, is already, I think, so impressive from a UI level and what it looks like and the colors and the gameplay of it. To then put it on your face and then be 100% in that cockpit, where it is all of a sudden just looking around, like, suddenly like using the side windows of the X-Wing. One of them, I did a bombing run, right? And it was like, I dropped the last bomb and I pull away and it's like, objective completed. You've done the thing. And I just did the look back over my shoulder out the back fucking window past my droid and saw the thing exploding. It was like, holy fucking shit. And you want to talk again about the dials and everything else of like suddenly to have it where it's doing whatever I'm looking at in the main screen and then literally look down and pan the camera to see what's going on there and come back up. It was incredible, and it made me so car sick. And I played a lot of VR in general, including Quest, but like I always say like, oh, I have my VR sea legs now. Obviously, dogfighting in 0G or whatever, I think maybe pushed it a bit differently. But it was like, it was that normal thing of doing it where I was like, fuck, this is the definitive way to play. And I think I pushed into another mission doing it that way before I finally popped it off and sat there for a second. And it got my wits back about me. But I was like, wow, this is so fucking cool.
By the way, there's been no Star Wars game before that has made me realize how dumb it is that every ship just has a windshield. Just like a glass windshield. Like, because it cracks in this game. It's like, it does, wait a second, what happens if I get
so early? Again? So early.
It's like, so funny.
If this breaks, what happens to me?
Yeah.
How's the sound in the game?
I think it's great. Yeah. I'm coming at this at such a casual Star Wars fan perspective, but the lasers are the laser sounds, right? And the orchestra score, it sounds like Star Wars, and the Empire talking with British accents, and there's a bunch of crazy aliens and droids beeping and booping at me. Like, it felt like it for me.
But like specifically, Greg, you playing in VR, how immersive did it sound? Like, are you hearing ships on your side and you're like, oh shit, it's over here?
I didn't put on the full headset for it. Like, I put on my headset and I didn't use my cans. I just left it on the sound bar in my living room. So I can't speak to that in terms of spatial audio. But like, in terms of like like, back to when it works, right? And again, like even me being casual Star Wars and not even a flight dogfighting shooter kind of guy, like going through as the X-Wing, right, and hearing that like you're getting the sound that you expect. And again, I think what they've accomplished of taking a complicated control scheme and boiling it down to a controller that works in the way they teach you, like having that sound, I'm getting chased by a missile. I use circle to throw out whatever I'm using as my way to stop the missile behind me. I'm not even sure, but I do it. And then as I'm going towards an asteroid, right, like just roll it to the left and do this perfect spin to come right out through the hole. Like there are so many moments in there where you're like, fuck, this feels like the movie. This feels like something you'd see the Millennium Falcon do.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Like I even to talk about the sound design a bit, right? Like I mentioned earlier that the combat is pretty satisfying. And I think a big part of that is the sound design of the lasers. Like hearing the lasers shoot out your ship and then explode another ship. That I think that goes a long way into making the combat feel good. Yeah. And then like the score, obviously. I don't know if there's been a Star Wars game that hasn't had a good soundtrack, but yeah, like this falls in that line in terms of it's a really good Star Wars score, I'd say. Like it sounds very Star Wars.
Yeah. I think, and that's again, back to what's interesting about this game. And, obviously I always talk about being a story whore. That's what I play these games for. Like that's not what this game is built for, I don't think. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like I can't even tell you that, and there's spoilers involved with it, so we won't in general, but like the the protagonist and the antagonist for the Rebels and for the Empire, like I like vaguely remember their name. I remember their relationship, but it's like, who cares? Because it's meant to be like when I'm in the game and I'm running around or flying around and shooting shit that it feels good and it feels like Star Wars.
Yeah.
And I think that that's an interesting thing for them and for EA in general, right? Of like, here's a $40 Star Wars title, which I think doesn't limit expectations, but it does put expectations at a lower degree than asking for the full 60, right? Or next year 70.
Yeah. That feels like that it was based on, like they had a VR Star Wars thing for Battlefront 1, I want to say, like as DLC. And it feels like they saw that idea. It was like, what if we built this on the back of Motive's Battlefront 2 work? It just like made a smaller experience that was still like, it still felt fun, but it was not necessarily like the big Star Wars game everyone thinks like they want from this sort of thing.
Sure.
Because honestly, that would have been prohibitively expensive and probably sold about the same as saying this will. There is a story campaign, but I feel like at the end of the day, this game is meant to be a multiplayer title.
100%.
Oh yeah, like the campaign very much to me feels like a tutorial that is setting you up to go play multiplayer, which I'm definitely fine with, because I felt like it feels very necessary. Like like still at mission 5, I still feel like there's more I need to learn and grapple with and understand. And so I think they did a good job with that. And yeah, I think the $40 price tag does this game such a favor, because playing this game like $60, I think I'd start to question like, all right, yeah, like it could use some content here and there. Or, oh man, I wish the story was a bit had a bit more involvement into what I was actually doing, and like I could make certain complaints. At $40, this feels like a steal almost. Like this feels like a full quality experience. Granted, like that I have had some glitches that I feel like, or some bugs that feel like they might be day one patch type stuff, but like
I've had like numerous hard crashes at this point.
Oh really?
I've
been having a weird recurring one where basically if I put my Xbox on like sleep mode or whatever and come back to the game later, if I boot it up, everything will be fast forwarding. Like everything's just super fast for no reason. Okay. I'll have to restart my game, and I'm like, that must be that's fixed in the day one patch, unless it's a feature. Maybe I'm not realizing that. Like,
yeah, in terms of like glitches and bugs, the only one I had, and I reported it today during multiplayer mode to the folks who were on for Motive, was, and this is such a small thing, but I guess maybe just be careful, unlike me, is that again for this we had to be at level 5 in multiplayer. So last night I hit level 5 and they did like bonus XP for the day or whatever, so it like pushed me to level 6, and I was like, fuck, perfect, I'm ready to go. And I turned it off. I think I played Avengers for a while and I went to bed. And so then this morning, turned it on, went in to do it, and it was level 4 again. And I was like, oh man, it must be a weird like server thing, whatever. It's not out to the public. Played another one of the fleet battles, got it to level 5 into 6 again. And then I noticed up here it said it had a countdown clock on when it was going to kick me back to the main menu. And here it was like in the middle of the screen, leveling up, showing all the unlocks and shit. And it said fleet battles unlocked or whatever, or dogfights unlocked. And I was like, fleet battles, whatever. Awesome, cool, it's done. And I hit circle for quit. And it said, are you sure you want to quit? And I said, yes. And I went back out and I was level 4. And I was like, that's an oversight that I have to sit there on this thing counting down to the main menu. And if I quit, so I had to do the fleet battles again, got to level 5, let it go to the main menu. It saved my progress finally. And I jumped in and I reported to them like, thank you for telling us. We'll look into it. So it's like not a glitch, just a weird messaging thing or whatever. But I think, it's going to be interesting. I'm really interested to see how this game scores and then what the reaction is. Cause I think $40 is a steal for it. I think there's so much TLC in it. You know what I mean? There are a bunch of maps to go play on. However, there are only the 2 modes. There is the mode of dogfight and there is the mode of fleet battles. And I feel that I have not gotten to try a dogfight multiplayer match. By the time I was able to get in after Games Daily today, they were already done trying those out on multiplayer, which again is not, what the real servers will be. So let's see how that all works out on launch day. But I did some practice runs and it's dogfighting, right? So we're just killing each other. Greatest death match. Yeah. Which sounds like fun. Great, cool. And then fleet battles that we've already explained. I do wonder if people will not run out of content, but just run through that so quick that they're like, I need a new map. I need a new thing. And I think that a roadmap would help with that from Motive if they were like, hey, it's launch, and guess what? Every month you're getting a new map, and we're working on a mode for 4 months from now or something like that. I could be totally wrong because, again, to what we're talking about, this is a game that I would say is easy to pick up and understand how to fly and what you're doing, but difficult, the mastery of this, and you build your own loadouts and, you're earning in-game currency. There's no microtransactions with real money. You earn in-game currency that you can then apply for cosmetics that you can then use to unlock new auxiliary weapons and new engines and new chassis and all these different things that you are really going in there and changing and making the ships your own, that the way you have your own thing. But I do wonder if the combat will be enough for your squad or if you would be wanting more.
Hey, how long did the fleet battles take you, like per match?
When I was playing with people or alone?
Either way.
Alone, like there's a 30-minute countdown for fleet battles when it was versus AI. And playing them alone, and again, not, I think, as I already stated earlier, not fully understanding I should be switching ships and shit like that. They were taking, I would say I usually ended, I would say 20 minutes, maybe somewhere in there. And that felt long, but again, remember, it feels long to me probably because I'm fucking it up. Or I'm like, God damn it, I'm doing this level 5 battle again, trying to get to where I need to be. Like, it also, I didn't enjoy playing the AI a lot. What the multiplayer I got to do for fleet battles today was infinitely more fun than playing the AI. And so I really wish the servers would have been turned on from the start, so we could have gone in earlier and had a populated server, which is a different argument. But like going through and playing fleet battles, and even though we weren't on comms and stuff because it was similar to this crossplay, we're all just playing on different things. It was cool though to get killed and then see the kill cam and see how Brad Shoemaker saw me coming through and got me and took me down that way, right? And all these other little things like that. Like that was infinitely more fun, I thought, than playing as just the AI. How long were they taking you? Sorry,
the AI battle took a good 15-20 minutes. I was like, this is way too long. But then actually playing with people, I was like, okay, people kind of know what they're doing, so this is not taking nearly as long. Everyone's going through it usually it didn't exchange phases like 4 or 5 times. It was on one phase, people usually got their objectives done. So my advice to people who are trying this out and going into this multiplayer, don't judge the early part because it does take way longer with AI than you would think.
Yeah, I would say for sure. Yeah, the human multiplayer matches went way faster. And again, when I was playing, one of the teams just beat the living shit out of us, right? And again, I think this is an interesting question I'd like to pose to you guys. Do you feel that is this going to fall into the same kind of camp Evolve did, where I can see if everyone's on mic, if everyone's there, it's us 5 playing another group of 5, we're going to have a great time. But at launch, you're just a Star Wars fan and you jump into a random battle and nobody's on mic or one person's on and they're saying racist stuff. It's I feel like the experience might fall apart because it's going to get into that thing of dude, shoot the shield generator. When you finally get the shields down on the destroyers and you can go in there, they have specific things you can take out so they can't do things. So you can take out their shields so they can't shield again. You can take out their weapons so they can't, or their targeting system so they can't target you. I feel like you need to communicate that to have the best experience, but I don't know if without it you'd have the worst.
Yeah, it's one of those things of, theoretically, people should be playing their roles. So if you're an A-wing, you should be dogfighting. If you're a Y-wing, you should be bombing more. But I don't know that people are going to know that, or they're just gonna be I like A-wing because A-wing is cool, and just play that.
Sure. Yeah, it is.
That's kind of the rough thing with this one is that there's certain moments where I was like, man, okay, I could see some some like Overwatch in here, some like Rainbow Six in here in terms of like, oh yeah, like it's 5v5 and everybody's playing the roles and doing all these different things. I do think this is going to be more of a niche Star Wars game, especially compared to like Battlefront and things like that. Like this game just feels like there's so much more to it in terms of the depth and how much work it kind of takes to understand how to play the game. And I think that's going to end up cutting so many people off. But then also, like I think once you have people just jumping in like just to casual matches or whatever, like jumping into random matches with other people, I think you will have a lot of that frustration of people just not knowing how to play, and then having that tension of like, I'm only going to play with people who know how to play this game. And then it gets into the thing of, all right, how many of my friends are playing Star Wars Squadrons that know how to play? And then I can see how you end up there of like, all right, yeah, I'm only going to play this with people I know. And that means I'm barely playing this because who do I know that's really into Star Wars Squadrons?
Yeah, I think this is one that Discord servers are kind of designed for, because I do think that the people who are going to be into this are going to be into this, and like I think you're going to see that's the kind of shit where again like I will never be that good, right? And I'd love to do a kind of funny 5 of us versus the AI and see what's up, but like I really do feel that if you let this cook a little bit, like you're going to see on stream some really cool fucking battles of people who are going back and forth and figuring it out.
Like, I want to get a HOTAS and play this game because, like, that it seems like it would be more fun with that, and like put on or connect the Oculus and play it in VR with a flight stick. But then that sounds like at some point that seems, am I the only one who's gonna do this? And if so, is that crazy? But also, like, it's Star Wars. It seems fun.
Let's get crazy,
I want to do that
baby.
so badly as well.
Same. Yeah, I want to do that in VR, man. Like that sounds like the perfect experience to have this game in a flight stick in VR. Oh my god!
Plus, if I can figure out that setup, you gonna come over and play?
100% yes. I'm there.
To wrap this up, what do you guys in the final moments predict the scores are going to be tomorrow when they go live?
Here's the thing: is I don't think you're going to see a lot of scores tomorrow. A lot of reviews, I think, or in progress. A lot of in reviews. A lot of reviews in progress tomorrow, I think, and that's what makes it so hard to say. Because even for us today, I know that there were plenty of people. Because the way this worked again in COVID land, right, is that at 9:30 a presentation started for Motive, and we were all watching with like a chat window over here. And then throughout the day, the thing was off. It was just running like controller layouts, if you wanted to know. And then chat was still going, and you'd see people in chat being like, "Hey, I'm getting this very specific connection error. Okay, this is what's happening," or blah blah blah. And it was like me in there being like, "I can't get past level 5." But like in terms of playing, I didn't have any disconnects. But who knows what's going to happen? So like that's the real big question. I think if everything flawlessly ran like it did for me, which again on PlayStation I didn't have those hard crashes. I just had that weird leveling thing, which I think is just an oversight that could be fixed easily. I would think 85 like on Metacritic. I feel like right there in that like this is a really great game that has a lot going for it. And again, I think it's going to speak to a very specific audience, a very hardcore audience. But even me, somebody who like if this is like I feel like back in 2007 when Roper would just toss me random ass PSP games to review, I'm like, I don't know anything about this. Like even me, somebody who's like, man, like not my cup of tea, but I'm super impressed with it. Like I think it's really good.
Yeah, I'm kind of there. Like as someone who is part of the audience this game is going for, of people who played the old games, people who like Star Wars, they want to like put on headphones and have Star Wars sounds made at them. Like this is a very ideal game, but it's like a strong 8. Like it's not like the story is not going to blow you away. You're not going to be in there. This is not the like if Jedi Fallen Order made you feel like a Jedi, this doesn't necessarily make you feel like a rebel pilot in that same power fantasy, but it does a good job of approximating that idea. And I think it gets close enough that I can go like, okay, you're not breaking the bank, but also you're not like overcharging me on microtransactions or making this a $60 game. So I'm fine with what you're doing here.
Yeah, I agree. Good. I think it'll land at 8s. I think I could also see some 7s based on like it does that VR element to it where it feels like it was made to be a VR game that was taken out and then put out as a console game. I think that could rub some people not the wrong way, but make people go like, all right, yeah, we could see you guys cutting certain corners with this stuff. But
then you're gonna have it. I think on that level, then you're gonna have 9s where it'll be like upload VR, and the people who are in that VR community who are Metacritic rated coming out and being like, holy shit, like this. That's
a really good point. Like a VR review for this game, I think would be fascinating, especially if like hopefully most people don't get sick with it. Like if that ends up being like if everybody gets sick, then it's like okay, maybe this isn't gonna be the 9s. But like,
and again, this is sick because you're doing loop-de-loops out there and barrel rolls. You know what I mean? Like, like it's all around you. I couldn't get away from it. And I don't like roller coasters.
I get disoriented just on a screen with this game. I think VR is just gonna push that way out to the distance.
Yeah.
But I mean, this seems like it could be like a fantastic VR game. Like that's the thing I'm dying to experience with this game. And so yeah, on that side, I could see like maybe 9s, but I think for what it is, and also if I had a biggest complaint with this game, it probably would be lack of content. Like I would like more modes. I didn't see all the maps or whatever, but like even for this game and maps is interesting because like it feels like you're just in space. Like if it's not really like a Call of Duty where it is like okay, different paths, different things here. Like it does really feel like all right, yeah, this map is an orange planet in the background and then a big ship in the middle that's blocking you. And it's like, all right, cool. Like how much variation can you have there? But I think like little things like that might bring it down to 7s from certain places, but I am expecting 8s.
Well, we'll find out soon, ladies and gentlemen. But until then, this has been the Kind of Funny Gamescast. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be back next week. But if you want to stay and get some more, we're about to do the Patreon exclusive post show for people over at patreon.com/kindoffunnygames. But if you're not going to do that, till next time, I love you. Bye. It's post-show time. Now, normally, we have a game from Blessing. But Blessing, he just wants to vibe.
I just want to vibe.
Direct quote from him. When I said, Bless, what are we doing for the post-show? And he's like, I just want to vibe. What does vibing look like to you now on this fine Wednesday, Bless?
Honestly, it was one of the ones where, Bless who usually I prepare for like the shows that aren't reviews. And so like for this episode, I was like, we're doing a review, right? And I was like, well, I guess we're talking about Crash. We're talking about Star Wars. We'll see what happens when I get there. maybe if I have time and I'll put together a Bless You. And then I got here and I was like, I did not have time. I was playing Star Wars. But yeah, no, how y'all doing? I don't have a topic. I just wanted to.
That's pretty good. I do have a topic. So we're getting into next gen, and guys, we are so close. It's ridiculous. Like I was looking at the calendar, trying to fill some things out. We're days away from October, if not a day away from October, and that means we're 5 weeks ish out from new consoles, new launch.
Crazy,
titles.
Yeah, man.
Cyberpunk just right after that, like.
I used to count down the days till when I would line up at Walmart for consoles, and this is like, all right, if it comes a couple of days late from Amazon, it's not a big deal.
But like, what does that say though? Because is that just that you've gotten older and your priorities have changed, or just that the quality of games at all times is higher? Because I look at it and I'm like, what you just said of Miles Morales and Demon Souls, that alone would rival pretty much any of the launches we've had in recent years, at the very least. And on top of that, the fact that we're getting Assassin's Creed and Cyberpunk and these third-party titles like so close to launch. Like,
I think part of it for me is I pre-ordered a PS5. I did not pre-order a Series X. There are so many, like, Microsoft has done a good job of making me excited about a Series X that I have not pre-ordered. Versus Sony, has been like, I don't know, you'll see when you get a PS5. Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know what the loading on that PS5 is going to be like at this point. I don't know what instant resume will be like. I don't know what backwards compatibility will be like. Like, there's not a Digital Foundry video telling me, okay, if you plug in Bloodborne onto your PS5, this is what the frame rate's going to be like now. This is how fast the loading goes. It's still like, those are very open checkboxes that Sony has yet to check. And they have not given me enough information beyond, like, here's 2 games that we play on the PS5 in November. And I'm like, those are cool. There's also just really good games right now, so I will cross that bridge when I get to it.
Bless, where you at, hype-wise?
I've been getting more and more excited as the weeks have been going. Like, there was a point a few weeks ago, I'm going to say right before the PlayStation 5 event that we just got. Right before that, I was kind of like, all right, I guess next gen is happening, but like, I'm not really. I could wait for next gen. Like, if next gen got delayed, I don't think it would have phased me. Even I think I even mentioned that like Miles Morales, I'm excited for it, but like I don't need any of these games that are coming out, or I don't need the next gen systems. I'll say, and like the launch title is coming out for it this fall. But like a few weeks later, after getting the PS5 event, after getting more info on certain games, after seeing Demon Souls is coming out launch day, like I'm super excited now. Like even watching Michael Hyam play his Xbox Series X in the living room, right, and seeing like the benefits there. Even though like it is like all backwards compatible stuff he's playing, but like seeing the quick resume, seeing him switch back and forth between these games pretty quickly, seeing the quick load times, seeing how important Xbox Game Pass seems to be to that thing, because like I can't remember if this is the thing we mentioned during Games Daily when we were talking about the Xbox previews, but like within that UI, like they put Game Pass front and center in a way where it's like, yeah, y'all are going really hard with this. I'm really excited to see the benefits of that and how that sort of becomes synonymous with Xbox next gen, especially with EA Play launching with it. Like I think that's going to add enough freshness and newness to like how Xbox feels next gen that like, I'm excited for that.
Greg.
Tim, what's next generation all about?
Convenience, baby,
So I feel like that's where I'm at with it, where I'm excited for next gen. I'm excited for a new box. I'm excited for a PlayStation 5, but I'm not like frothing at the mouth for it. And I don't know if that speaks to launch lineups or whatever, because like clearly I'm stoked for fucking Miles Morales. I can't wait. Spider-Man remastered and this weird new Peter Parker. But like, it's not at this forefront of my mind where I'm like, oh my God, so much hinges on next gen, if that makes sense, right? Like right now, I can't wait for Animal Crossing tomorrow and Pumpkins. I'm excited to play Crash. I want to know what's going on with Avengers. I can't wait for Assassin's Creed. I'm looking forward to Watch Dogs. Like I can't wait for Cyberpunk. Like there are so many games that, yeah, fuck, let's go. Let's play all these things. And then there's also next gen wrapped up with it. But next gen's wrapped up with it as more of a utility than it is the event. Right, like I'm stoked for the night we get the PlayStation 5 and put it in and turn it on and hopefully download Avengers and see how that runs and put it on Fortnite. But it's like, it is in my head very much, for the most part, playing experiences I'm already playing or playing just enhanced versions of it, and the convenience of the better loads, the convenience of a faster download. Like that's what I'm excited for. Like last night, switching between Squadrons and Avengers and having the system chug and hitch and hold up. And it's like, oh God, I can't wait I don't even want to say I can't wait. I hope everything's so much more optimized to run better. Because again, back to Imran, I haven't seen this fucking thing run anything.
Like that's kind of the thing too of like, next gen games for me or next gen systems are usually like, well, if I want to keep up on video games, this is where video games are going to be in the future. And I think I feel that more this generation than ever before, of like, yeah, there's going to be cool stuff and I guess the graphics will be better, but it's more that just like, this is where games are now. So I might as well get this thing now and start playing the best version of these games.
Yeah.
And I guess that's not enough for me to feel like jazzed out of my mind anymore. Like the day that like, I guess this is a long off comparison, but like going to the mall to pick up Mario 64 in an N64, because like that was going to change things. That was like a new level of gaming at that time. And since then, it's like, okay, I've been on the hype cycle for these consoles, but it's been a little less each time. And I think I finally hit the point where like, okay, cool. Like this is where games are going to be. So this is what I'll get. But I can't feel myself like, it's not a daily preoccupation anymore.
Yeah.
It just sort of, this is it.
I feel like if I recall previous transitions from generation to generation, right? Like PS3 to PS4, I felt like there was something there happening in terms of like graphics or whatever. I felt like the PS4 was going to do things for games in a way where like I understand that ray tracing exists and like I understand too that like games are going to look better and run better and stuff because of the power of the PS5 and Xbox Series X. But for some reason, I don't have that same level of, oh yeah, like let's see what this thing can do. Like it does feel more, I think, iterative than ever before. And like even like when you, and this is kind of an unfair comparison, but like the Switch coming out, there was like a tangible excitement that I had before the Switch came out,
because
like,
it was different. It was new, right?
Yes, right. Yeah, and like it was different. Fair, it was new, mobile.
It was also coming with like one of the best rated games of the generation.
Yeah, and like I just don't have that right now with Xbox Series X and PS5. I'm still excited, but this is probably the least excited I've been, I'll say, overall compared to any previous console launch.
That's weird to me because like I definitely think that like last gen was infinitely less exciting than this gen, because this gen we have some launch titles that are dope. Like last gen we didn't, And on top of that, it was just kind of like transitioning from PS3 to PS4. But the games that we were still excited to play on PS3, we couldn't play on PS4. And now it's like, oh, cool. At least the games we're still excited for coming out, we'll be able to play the best versions of it. Like, to me, that's just exciting, is that I don't need to stress about it. Is that I don't need to be like, damn it, like I wish that Cyberpunk was on PS5. It's going to be on PS5.
It will eventually, not the launch version.
But even the launch version, I'll be able to play it, and it will still have enhancements, right?
Like that's part of it too. Of they're billing this and marketing this generational transition as a continuation because Sony obviously wants you to buy a PS5 because you own a PS4. Like, you've been playing Avengers on PS4, just continue playing on a PS5, stuff like that. And then Microsoft says, hey, you like Game Pass. Game Pass is a thing. We're not messing with that. In fact, we're making it better. Continue on with us, regardless of like if you're on phones or PCs or whatever. And that kind of contributes, I guess, to a little less excitement of, yeah, it's a continuation. Like, the good things about the generation are just going to be further good. There's no revolution in this, and maybe that revolution is going to come in terms of the tech and technology and all that, but it is, like you guys said, it feels more convenient in the next generation, and that is not worth me like hanging from the rafters anymore. And then, again, like you said, Tim, that might just be me getting older and just more tired of this like same cycle over and over. But I don't know. I can't pinpoint the exact reason. I think this time.
Blessing calling it iterative is what works for me, because it's the same way where, when I used to upgrade on the iPhone, it used to be a huge deal and it'd be so crazy and yada yada yada. And this time around now, it's just like, oh, good, new iPhone. Like we got to that point eventually where my iPhone's fine, and so the next one I get, and I'm not worried about model numbers or whatever, is the next one I get, and it's great. I think that's a similar thing here, where even PS3 to PS4, right, as a Sony fucking connoisseur or whatever, like, what got me stoked about it was moving away from the XMB, was moving away from the cell processor, was having this ability, as stupid as it sounds now, to have like your Facebook attached and have a real photo and have remember the Twitch was integrated inside of it, and you could stream right from it, and like there were all these things that are like, wow, this does feel different. There is something crazy here, whereas this one, you can still do all that and it's going to load faster, but it's just like, okay, cool. This is the better PlayStation, which I'm totally fine for and I'm excited for. And I want them to have my money because I want to have the better PlayStation, but I'm just not. And granted, this is after the PlayStation 4 Pro as well. Like, I just feel like that's where we're at. And, really the fruits of this come in the next few months and years, right, as we get going.
Right. We all forget bad, or not even bad, like boring launches by like the end of year one. So by the time we're all playing like God of War and Halo Infinite and all that jazz, we'll be like, why were people concerned?
I think that's probably like the point for me, is that like 2021 is more exciting for me than this launch this fall. Like, this launch this fall is kind of the thing to get me to 2021, so I could play Horizon and God of War and Ratchet and Clank and like all the different games that are coming to next gen systems. But like, right here, right now, this fall, like Miles Morales again, I'm super excited for. But I don't feel like I'm going to discover much from this console in a way where, like with the PS4, it's like, okay, let's see a share button. Okay, cool. Oh, I can stream to Twitch directly. Okay, cool. Like, I can have my real name be connected to this thing. Like, right now and granted, we don't know anything about the PS5 still somehow. And so maybe there's going to be that stuff there. But even looking at the Xbox Series X, and watching Michael play it, like, it very much feels like the thing that's going to be the thing for that is, one, the SSD, obviously, and all that stuff, but then also this is going to be the generation of Game Pass for Xbox Series X, which to me is the exciting thing. But beyond that, it's the same.
Hey, what does the create button do?
Create stuff.
Like, how has that still not been answered? Like, the PS blog saying, we'll tell you a little bit what this button does, is from April.
Imran, what's your hurry? What do you have to do for the next month? Calm down.
I just want to know, like, that feels like it should still be so easy in a tweet to say,
bro, dude, they already sold one to you.
I bet PlayStation's already I bet they're still trying to figure out what's different between
like, what
the create
is
and
the
share button.
It opens up dreams. Wouldn't that be a cool thing?
This has been the Post Show. Thank you very much for supporting us over at Patreon. We appreciate you guys. Till next week. Love you. Bye.